remember when we had those thematic units in schools? Every unit you were specifically looking at this one thing. Let's look at this video like a thematic unit. I'm going to take you through 5 different books that all live within the same universe. And that's the theme of this video, is this one thread of historical fantasy universe of 5 books that everyone should add to their TBR, especially if they're fans of learning something new. Let's get into it, shall we? So I'm going to give a disclaimer at the top of this video. For the life of me, I could not locate a copy of one of the books. So I'm just going to put my hand up, and I'm hoping that the editing version of myself is going to pay particular attention to this video and edit a screenshot of the book every time I raise my hand, because I have the books for everything else. So I don't want to just like awkwardly. We move. We're going to get started with Zeal by Morgan Jerkins. This one I think is technically a romance, but what kind of romance? What kind of love is easily debatable, right? So there's an argument to be made that it's about familial love. It's about romantic love. It's about the love that you have for your people, your community. What it definitely is a story of we were meant to find each other in every lifetime. Regardless of what you go through or I go through, when we leave and we return, decade, century after century, our spirits are going to know one another. We're always going to find our way. It might take a little bit longer, but we'll end up together eventually. That was this story. One of my favorite characters was 𝕃𝕠𝕟𝕟𝕟. She is rock solid, strong, a faithful, godly woman. You understand? This is a praying woman. This is a woman that Harriet would be proud of. You understand? 𝕃𝕠𝕟𝕟 meant big business. She did what she needed to do to get her family where they needed to be. And anybody who has a problem with 𝕃𝕠𝕟𝕟 has a problem, they could take it up with me. That's how I feel about her. As we go through this story, we are jumping through timelines. So we're moving. Hold on, I got my little notebook. I got my notes. So we're moving from, I believe the first year is 1860. Dang, why I skipped so many pages? Right. So begin the book in 1865. Then we pop over to 1912, and then we're brought up to speed in modern day in 2020 during COVID specifically. So when we start off the book in 1865, we're in Natchez. Then we go over to Louisiana just a couple years later, and then pop over part of the Great Migration, pop over to Kansas, and then in modern times, we're ending our story in Harlem. This is a book about secrets. This is a book about silence, survival, and it's a book about how easy it is to justify choices in the moment, right? Speaking of how easy it is to justify choices in the moment, that brings us to our next book. We don't talk about Carol. We're sitting in the late 1950s, 1960s, and then brought up to speed in present day. That's a story about missing girls, specifically missing Black girls. A story about how girls were just missing and forgotten, and how racism and systemic injustice just perpetuates harm. It makes so many things go unnoticed or unaddressed for so long in these historically underserved and hyper-marginalized communities. And so that was just us. Oh my God, was that a story? It's a mystery. I think it's like a mystery thriller, or maybe it's just a mystery. That book was just a story about definitely silence as survival. So overlapping with Zeal in that area. And there is a good chunk of just doing your best. As awful as things were, people were just doing their best. So even down to the missing girls not even being reported upon properly or at all, it was coming down to this community doing their best, right? In the face of Jim Crow, in the face of having to prove that you're 10, 20, 30 times better and presenting as the upper hand, people are looking down on you, right? So If you already have people that are expecting you to fail, why would you contribute to evidence of your failure? Right? So I understand how sorry if this is a spoiler, but it's a baby spoiler, I promise. How there was a portion of that book that talked about, oh, I forgot my train of thought. I had to rewind the tapes. So I could understand how town's newspaper we're not running a report on these missing girls. This just won't be published in the newspaper. And that's something that the people who want to see us fail, who have continued to degrade us, will have something tangible to point to, say, and this is why you need to be controlled. So I can see that. Definitely silent as survive and doing your best. So Carol wanted to be a singer, and she was going to go to Detroit. There's mentions of the Detroit music scene, and we're not going to revisit that book. Instead, the link that we're going to specific to Detroit comes in with Love from Harlem by ReShonda Tate. Historical fiction that explores the forgotten and most really hidden history of Hazel Scott, all around jazz prodigy, activist, blueprint, that girl. She was just that girl. Who's that girl? It's Hazel. So we're learning about her relationship with Billie Holiday. We get to see some starlights mentioned throughout the novel. Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, Miles Davis, and hear maybe more than we hear about her husband, Adam Clayton Powell Jr., and their activism, both Hazel and. There's a specific scene where Hazel is checking in on Billie, and I apologize if this is a spoiler. These are light spoilers. There's a specific scene where Hazel is checking up on Billie at the hotel, and there is a tragedy that happens. It's a soldier who has returned home from war. Soldier has just returned home from Germany, and there's an altercation in the lobby of the hotel. Police get involved, and the young soldier loses his life. As a result of this incident, riots break out in Harlem. Months ahead of riots that are happening in Harlem after this incident, there were riots across the country in Detroit, Los Angeles, and there's a note of it's just Harlem's turn, right? Everyone else has been going through this. So that's our Detroit tie-in. Between Detroit and Harlem, we're also diving into this world of music and drugs, right? And with Love from Harlem, we're seeing a bit of the alcoholism through Hazel. We see drug addiction through Billie, and music, they're artists, right? So music throughout, even bumping into other musicians throughout the novel, like the Miles Davis, like Nina Simone, who at that time was, in the book, this up-and-coming artist. There are so many questions around what did our young men go through when they were overseas, and what are they currently going through when they get home, because don't treat them as equal, and they risk their lives, right? Like, you do exactly what everyone else does, but they don't get anything when they come back. So there's a question that lives around these when they come home. Are they all right? With Love from Harlem, we see Hazel stop a show, or at least, I can't remember if it was that particular show, or at least make an observation that these were segregated. I think that it was that she stopped the show, right? So you come home and you're still facing Jim Crow. It's not making any sense. Coming home from fighting this war, we have no idea what they've gone through. In comes Keeper of Lost Children by Sadeqa Johnson. So this is the story of the quote-unquote brown babies in Germany following World War II, where a bunch of Black soldiers who were stationed in and accepted by German women were procreating. There ended up being a very specific population of mixed race babies who were born to German mothers by American fathers who were no longer present. Keeper of Lost Children follows that through three different perspectives, right? So we're tracking the perspective of an outsider in terms of I see these children who need homes, right? So that's one perspective. Another perspective is one of the children. So a child that is stateside, I don't know if that's a spoiler, I'm so sorry. Sorry. She is now stateside and her journey. Then the other perspective of an American soldier who had a baby and left that baby behind. This book had a lot of, how easy it is to justify something in the moment, a lot of doing your best, and a big of enduring love, right? So there was a particular line in the book where somebody is that, as long as you'll have me, I'm here. And just the context that surrounds that moment was just so, very precious. When they get home, they return into racism, they return into all of these things, and then we can only look to no good, low down, dirty people, whatever. He did things for us. He did things for this country, for Black people. He did. I'm not denying this. He did. But as a person in relationships, womanizer, huge, what my observations are. So they coming home to foolishness, and we're dependent upon these budding leaders like Adam Clayton Powell Jr. to lead us to a better future. And then you have the girls that adore girls, and he adores the girls. He's been caught up in all the scandals, been cheating on all the women. He loves the girls love him, and one of the girls that love him is in this book. And Kin takes place in, I think it's the 1950s into the 1960s. And this told through the lens of two friends and their crib friends, This book really just digs into what does it mean be family? What is family? Who is family? I read all of these in a day. All of these books I've read in a day. They were great. They were all great. And they tie into each other's universes. Whether you're wanting to stay in Harlem and learn about the starts of the civil rights movement and definitely sit squarely in Harlem Renaissance, or take a trip over to Philly, Germany, to DC, you could come over here. These girls were also considering going over to Washington, D.C., because if you can't make it to Atlanta, you might as well go to D.C. The great Black people are in both places, so you can't miss, right? Or you can just decide that you either want to stay down south, or you're really for real committing to Harlem because that's where you get people from, and you understand that great things, truly great things, have come out of Harlem, and even inspired other things to have taken place. And we're definitely across the country can land in the DMV area. We're spent a little bit of time in Germany and just understanding some of the stories that we don't hear about too often. Did I somehow in any way convince you that all of these books exist in the same universe? And maybe you want to kind of like maybe read them in order or like together, one after the other? No. Okay, no, it's okay. That was a silly question. I'm so sorry. Are you at least adding them to your TBR, or which ones are you adding to your TBR? You did add any of them? All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna end this video now because I think it's long. Probably. I don't know what this is. Well, like, comment, and subscribe. There's more coming. And YouTube thinks that you should watch this specific video next. But tell me in the comments, what have you read already? What thread are you interested in following based off of like the things that we talked about? I'm so sorry we don't talk about car. I don't even know what I was going to talk. Listen, because we coming off the notebook. These are my notes. Okay. I did my best. But I'm going to see you next week, okay?